I love this church. I'm not sure whether you're aware, but this church actually has quite a reputation. And not just in Tulsa, but across the country, Unitarian Universalist churches use our curriculum for their adult and children's religious education programming. They subscribe to our monthly journal, Simple Gifts, even though they are not members. They listen to our podcasts, visit our website, read the books that we have published from our Jenkins Lloyd Jones Press, and now, yes now, you can even watch us on YouTube. Ministers and laypersons across the country contact our staff members asking for suggestions and best practices. They call to gain from our experimentation as well as our successes. This church year, we will have the current Unitarian Universalist Association president, Reverend Bill Sinkford, preaching in this very pulpit in the fall, along with Reverend Dr. Laurel Hallman in the spring, who is likely to be elected the first female president of our association. We have a reputation here at All Souls, a reputation for doing church right, of clarifying and integrating our identity with tradition and ritual, of speaking out from the pulpit and the pew against injustice, of carrying our voices outside these walls to the ears of the community, and of offering a harbor of religious freedom where it is needed most, right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We may have no coastline, but we are a harbor of religious freedom and a hotbed of Unitarian Universalism in this country today. What happens here, what is spoken here, written here, dreamt about here, ripples out across this nation. So I have to say that I must confess, I was drawn here initially by this church's reputation. I wanted to have an impact with my ministry, and I wanted that impact to be as far and wide as I could imagine, because I believe that Unitarian Universalism is a saving faith, a faith that saves lives by creating an environment where our gifts can be recognized and put to use, a place where we are all seen as valuable and where we are called to live out our highest calling. And I am worried. I am worried that our association is threatened by dwindling membership, lack of focus in our identity as a movement, and lack of training of our ministers to implement change. And yet none of this is happening here. Most of you know that I grew up in Oklahoma City, so I understand Oklahoma culture. As a matter of fact, it pulses through my veins. When I applied for this position in January 2006, I came for the reputation as well as the location. Most of you know that my family lives here in Oklahoma, and my partner Jill is from Texas. And so in my search process and trying to find the right fit between my ministry and the right church, there was a lot of pressure for me to find a right fit here. I had heard many stories about ministers, though, who took positions purely out of geographical desire, and I knew that I did not want my first settlement in a congregation to be about location. So I went out of my way to ensure that my choice was about finding the right fit, a place where my gifts would best meet the needs of the people. I've actually gone out of my way to be as me as I could possibly be in our initial discernment, taking risks, pushing the limits to boldly name who I am as well as my vision for ministry. In my interview process, I named how the collaboration of my ministry with this church and my vision of the religion of the future. I wanted to be chosen for this position by being exactly who I am. And I pushed the church that I serve to help make me be more of who I am. I want to be pushed by the church that I serve to help me live up to my potential as much as I expect you to live up to yours. So I kept naming and naming and naming and expecting at any moment for the search committee or the staff or the leadership to go, no, 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 those ideas don't belong here, which of course would mean that I didn't belong here. But that never happened. You may have had a similar experience when you first discovered this church, saying things out loud in church that you may have never thought possible, naming your doubt out loud, claiming who you are in a religious context, maybe tentatively at first and then more boldly, testing the waters a little to see if we would harbor you, to see if there was a place for you here, to see if we might welcome you into our spiritual home. Inviting you not only to seek shelter here, but also to participate in our ever-unfolding process. That January of 2006, that I was in discernment with the search committee, I spoke of my vision of a church where we are loved relentlessly, challenged regularly, and held accountable to ourselves and to the world. A place where we can be fallible and forgiven, grounded in our history and reaching out towards an ever-appearing possibility. I was looking for a church home at that time where together we would be able to risk affirming the inherent worth and dignity of every individual, including ourselves. I wanted a church with room for a liturgy that included grace and forgiveness, surrender and praise. In my interview process, I spoke of our churches as vehicles for transformation and my desire to build a collaborative ministry that offers opportunities to mend ourselves, each other, and the world. Historically, it has been in our churches that the unspoken has been said, where the silence of unspoken doubts are named, where oppressions are confronted, and the truth is sought in love. Last week, Marlon talked about why he is a Unitarian. And I must say that I agree with him for all of the reasons that he named. Our Unitarian forefathers and mothers emphasized reason in religion and the autonomous self. Our ability to make our own decisions, to freely act in the world. For Unitarians, sin and salvation was an individual affair. And so, with Unitarianism, we have salvation and goodness by our character, by what we do, how we choose to act in the world. I too am a Unitarian. However, I cannot be a Unitarian without also being a Universalist. This is important to me not only because of my background in philosophy, but because I firmly believe that we all have a working doctrine of human nature that guides our actions in the world, whether that doctrine is articulated or not. But I'd like to talk to you a minute about why I'm not just a Unitarian, but also a Universalist. Because I've found that this church has room for me as well as my universalism.